Okay, so most of you know that we did a rockathon already like a couple weeks ago, and that rockathon was to raise money for different people in the village that needed some assistance or just a little bit of help. We've all been in that situation. That's Orion talking to us. Anyway, we had so many people come out to help out that we actually had to do a second one because so many people had put their money out to have their song reviewed, but the internet kept cutting out and we had different situations. But we had already done 15 hours, so we came back for a second rockathon, and this is one of the videos from that. Again, you'll notice us getting a little bit tired, so have a little patience with us, but I think we did pretty good this time. So thanks for everybody for coming out to help out, and we were actually able to help somebody get in a situation where they were able to save their house. They didn't lose their house, and a couple other people that the stories are pretty cool. So yeah, shout out to you.
Reggis, I'm going to rewind it all the way to the back. This is called Elegy, and off we go. that song premiered 8 November 2019.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Like, I don't even know. That would have been, I don't know when we did the first part of the Rockathon.
Right after. I think we did it 2 weeks ago.
This had a progressive. It was interesting because that riff was kind of like a new metal riff.
Like it was the 8th when we did the Rockathon.
Yeah, so it got released that day. That's pretty crazy.
That would have been cool to do it that day.
Yeah, like that riff was kind of like a new metal riff. It was kind of very basic and kind of repetitive, but it was overlaid with like a progressive power metal type sound, especially in the chorus. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
I liked it.
I liked the vibes. Lyrically, it was really interesting. Did anything catch you?
Yeah, the ending where he tells him basically you're gonna go with your feet now bound together. You're led where you don't wish to go, which was what was said to John.
No,
John?
This whole part here was what Jesus said to Peter at the end.
I knew he said it to one of them, but I thought it was John.
That whole So
no, it couldn't have been John.
John chapter 22, Jesus says to Peter, "When you were young, you went around anywhere you wanted to go, but when you were old, people will bind your feet, hands and feet together, and lead you to a place where you do not want to go."
Yep.
So that's almost a word for word quote of John chapter 22, where Jesus is talking to Peter, but it's talking about Peter going to be crucified.
Mm-hmm.
By a tyrannical government, which if you look at the whole song, he's talking about, do you think you're in charge of your own destiny? Have you ever questioned the official story, the version of history, the collective memory, where you have this sort of this narrative about history that you believe that you only got from, it's the old adage about it's the winners who dictate the story of history. History is told by the winners, and so you have different. I remember talking to you about slavery and racism and things like that, and you had a certain type of history about what actually happened.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting kind of conundrum to deal with, because it's like the same people who are oppressing us now are the same people who are writing us history and telling us how to interpret history and all the rest of it. So it's the point is well taken. And it's one of those things where tyranny does not have to, like, there's different ways of controlling a whole population of people. One, of course, is to have more weapons than everybody else, or to have more lethal weapons than everybody else. That's one way to do it. But I think tyrannical governments have kind of, especially in the West, especially America, has been able to refine the process such that they can do all this craziness and people will believe it's the right thing to do. I mean, the obvious one was WMDs, right? Was, the Iraqis, they've got WMDs, and now we found out there was no WMDs, but that was the entire, with the confluence of 9/11 and everybody's heightened fear of Arab people and people in the Middle East. And it didn't take much to get people to go, yep, we need to do some killing.
Yep.
So that's just one example. And then it turned out the whole thing was false. And then it's like, okay, well, what else have these people been lying to us about? What versions of history or versions of like our current situation are we just being lied to about that then influences us to either take part in these horrible regime change wars, as Tulsi says, or, have a blind eye and not really contest it. I remember during the whole Iraq situation, especially at the beginning, anybody that was against the war was like unpatriotic. And so you didn't want to be a unpatriot. So you're going to, oh yeah, I'm for the war. And now it's kind of worked in the reverse with Trump. You got all these people saying, if you support Trump, you're a racist. So it keeps everybody silent, and then they'll just vote. They'll just speak at the voting booth. So anyway,
I mean, you know what it reminded me of? Last night we were watching this. It was like a documentary on Satanism, and it was really interesting because they weren't putting themselves across as like, we sit around and worship Satan. It was just, we're not going along with the party line, and everything that is established and held on to in society, we're questioning all of that. And we're not just going to follow it because it's been given to us, but we're actually going to, I don't know, it almost felt like they were going to like, decide things for their own future, decide things for their own lives, and come up with their own conclusions on stuff, even if it went against the party line. And like he was actually specifically talking about putting the Baphomet statue up because the Ten Commandments was there and they wanted to have their statue, which I actually made a lot of sense to me. And then especially when he was saying like, oh, well, we would take, like, if you decide to take down the Ten Commandments and only put up our statue, we retract. Well, if you decide to take the Ten Commandments down, we retract from wanting to put our statue up because it's about diversity and that's what we're trying to show and create and stuff like that. And so this kind of song reminded me a little bit about that, kind of the, can you pull up the lyrics again? Just kind of going, yeah, like just some of the way that they were wording it, you know, like, have you ever questioned the official story, their version of history, the collective memory? And I really liked that word, the collective memory, because it's true. We all have to have a bit of faith in the past to know that the past actually happened.
Yeah.
You know, and without, and there's some stuff like, you know, like you were saying about what I thought of the slavery stuff is I had a certain view of what went on with slavery. And then when I heard your memory of, you know, your culture's memory of what happened in the past, and then you kind of put them together, you're like, oh, okay, there's some discrepancies here. But then when you factor in human nature, it really clarifies things. There's no total good guy and total bad guys in any generally in most situations. But then there are situations where it's like, that was just straight out wrong. So it's been an interesting process. But anyway.
It's a good song.
Yeah, that was it. Hail Satan. It was a good documentary.
Yeah, we're actually going to shoot a reaction to it, like a deep dive reaction to it. But we like I said, I didn't really want to do any real recordings until we did right by the people that did these donations. So that's coming. So what do you give the song?
9.7. What do you give it?
I give it
I love the beginning and I love that riff in there. And then I
give it a 7 for musicianship, 8 for the vocals, especially the catchiness of the thing, and then a 9 for the subject matter. So it's a 9.2. First song, 9.2. We started out strong. Good song. Good job.
Okay, no, we're not taking any more requests right now. We are going to do another one of these, like, rockathon things for actually probably to pay off our SUV or something. But for now, all of this money that was collected for this is all going to just help people in our village. 100% of it is going. So, this is the songs that had already been previously paid for and requested. So we're not taking any more right now. But rest easy. We will be doing it again.
Yeah.
Also, I think it's fun when you guys talk in the comments and write the song yourself, so we get to see what it was.